Sweating is something most of us associated with physical activities like running, exercising, or being in a hot environment. But sweating is a complex process controlled by our body's thermoregulation system, and there's a lot more to it than simple moving or exercising. Your body constantly works to maintain a stable internal temperature around 28.6 degrees Fahrenheit or 37 degrees Celsius, which is essential for proper functioning. Sweating is one of the primary ways your body regulates temperature when it starts to rise above normal levels. When your internal temperature increases due to extreme heat, physical activity, or metabolic changes, your body responds by activating sweat glands to cool you down. Sweat evaporates from the skin surface, helping to lower your temperature. Now, this may sound like a simple process, but several physiological changes and systems are involved. First one is your sweat glands. Particularly, eccrine glands are activated to release sweat when your body senses an increase in temperature. Second is evaporation and cooling. The sweat evaporates from your skin, a process that absorbs heat and cool your body. And third one is thermoregulation. Your hypothalamus, a part of your brain, monitors your body's temperature and signals that sweat glands to activate when it detects a rise in temperature. This is the process when we are exercising in a hot temperature or in a hot environment, or even when we are feeling stressed. Now, what's often overlooked is that sweating doesn't only occur when your heart rate increases. It's not strictly tied to physical activity. All heard that running is good for your heart, or you need to exercise to break a sweat. And while those statements are particularly true, they are also misleading. Running and physical exertion do increase your heart rate and as a result, your body's temperature rises, leading to sweating. But it's common myth that sweating can only happen through physical activity. When you run or engage in intense physical activity, your heart rate increases to supply your muscles with more oxygenated blood. This increases your metabolism and causes your body temperature to rise. As a result, your sweat glands are activated to cool you down. So it's not just the movement or exertion itself, but increase in body temperature and heart rate that leads to sweating. However, sweating is not exclusively tied to physical activity. It is entirely possible to sweat without running, lifting weights, or engaging in any physical movement. The key is to increase your body temperature, not necessarily the movement or activity itself. Here's where things get interesting. Practices like pranayama, the deep controlled breathing, techniques used in yoga, can also raise your heart rate and body temperature, leading to sweat even though you are not moving. Pranayama involves specific breathing exercises designed to control the flow of breath either through inhaling, exhaling, or retention. This technique activates your sympathetic nervous system, which is responsible to fight or flight response, and it can also stimulate your metabolism, leading to an increase in body temperature. Some breathing techniques like Kapalbhati or Bhastrika can significantly elevate your internal heat. Now, big question is how this works. First one is controlled breathing. When you breathe deeply or rapidly, it increases oxygen intake and engages your diaphragm more intensely. This stimulates your autonomic nervous system, triggering your body's internal process. Second one is increased metabolism. As your body takes in more oxygen and works to manage the rhythm of your breath, your metabolism may speed up slightly. Now, this can generate internal heat. Third one is increased heart rate. In many pranayama practices, especially those that involve retention, holding the breath, or rapid breathing, your heart rate increases, which in turn raises your body temperature. And the fourth one is sweating. Just like with exercise, this increase in body temperature can cause your sweat glands to activate. This means that sitting still and practicing pranayama can make you sweat without any external movement or physical exertion. In essence, you can raise your body temperature and break a sweat simply by controlling your breath. This is a great example for how sweating doesn't depend on moving or exercising. It depends on how your body regulates temperature internally. The autonomic nervous system, which is ANS, plays a key role in both physical activity and breathing exercises. The ANS controls many autonomic functions in the body, including heart rate, digestion, and activity of sweat glands. There are two branches of ANS. First one is sympathetic nervous system, which is SNS, and the second one is parasympathetic nervous system, which is PNS. The sympathetic nervous system is responsible for the fight or flight response. It increases your heart rate, blood pressure, and metabolic activity, all of which can lead to increased body temperature and sweating. When you are exercising, This system is activated and sweating follows a natural cooling mechanism. Second is the parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is responsible for rest and digest function, which typically slow things down. However, certain breathing practices, especially the more intense one, can activate the SNS, mimicking the physiological changes of exercise without having to move a muscle. So let's circle back to the common misconception that running or exercise is the only way to break a sweat. While these activities certainly raise your heart rate, body temperature, and include sweating, it's not the only way. Breathing techniques like pranayama or even sitting in a warm environment can increase your heart rate and body temperature, triggering sweat. The key is that sweating is ultimately a cooling response of heat. Whether that heat is generated through physical movement or controlled breathing, the outcome is the same, which is sweat. Thus, it's important to understand that sweating is a response of internal heat generation, not just physical movement. Practices like pranayama prove that you can achieve the same effort, rising heart rate, increasing metabolism, and sweating without physically exerting yourself. When we conclude all this, sweating is not excessively linked to running or physical exercises or activity. It's driven by an increase in body temperature, which can happen through a variety of mechanisms, including physical activity or controlled breathing exercises like pranayama. By understanding this, we can see the physical movement is not the only way to break a sweat. It's about how your body temperature rises, and that can happen even when we are still. Practices like pranayama not only help regulate your body temperature but can also lead to sweating without requiring any physical activity at all. So, next time someone tells you that sweating is only for runners or gym goers, remind them that the key lies in temperature regulation, whether you are moving or not.